What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Bulls Latest. Your host, Matt Johnson here. Hope everybody has had a great start to their Thursday out there. I wanted to begin today's show by looking at a report that came in this morning from Bulls insider Casey Johnson, stating that Ayo Dosunmu is expected to return to the team this next season. This is despite garnering interest from a Western Conference playoff team in the Golden State Warriors. The Bulls did have substantive talks, I'm told, with the Western Conference playoff team earlier this offseason regarding Ayo. And Golden State was tremendously interested. Nothing ever came to a close there. They were also interested, like I've talked about, in Vooch, and those talks dissipated as well. I think the teams couldn't find common ground on a trade package, and that's kind of why I expect Ayo to be back, and Casey Johnson just kind of solidifying that report this morning. So I wanted to kick off today's show. I know I talked a lot about in recent episodes Ayo Dosunmu trade scenarios. Those seem increasingly unlikely here as he's going to stick around. I'm all here for it. I think he's a heck of a player. It'll only drive his value up coming back and recovering from that injury moving into this next season. He could be a very solid piece for Chicago in what they're trying to do and win some ball games with the group that they have. So an optimistic approach here with Ayo. I'm excited to have him back if that's the case, and we'll continue to kind of keep an eye on him as the offseason progresses, but it's widely expected by a top Bulls insider that he is returning to Chicago once again here. Switching gears to an X factor, and this is a guy I haven't talked too much about, but I'm truly excited about what he's going to bring to the table for the Bulls this next season, and that's Kevin Huerter. He can be an overlooked X factor for this team heading into this next season. I think after a widely disappointing season with the Kings before he came to the Windy City last year, this guy was ultra productive. In 43 games with Sacramento, in which he had 15 starts, the 26-year-old was scoring only 7.9 points per game in nearly 21 minutes a night. He was shooting just 41.9% from the field and a career worst 30.2% from three-point range. He's known for his shooting ability, and that's where this guy gets his spark in the NBA game. At 6'7", that dramatic dip in accuracy was concerning for someone who had knocked in 37.5% of his career triples to this point. Huerter was at the heart of Chicago's best lineups last year after coming over, the result of that Zach LaVine deal. Among NBA groups that played at least 120 minutes over the year's final 15 games, and those include the Pacers, who made a run to the finals, and the T-Wolves, who made a run to the conference finals there. Chicago's lineup of Josh Giddey, Kobe White, Huerter, Modest, and Vooch led the league in pace and was third in offensive rating at 124. They were also good in effective field goal percentage and true shooting percentage as well. So that lineup, kind of diving into some more of the analytics here when it comes to the data and the numbers I'm going to throw at you guys, was very successful. That group scored 122.9 points per 100 possessions, shot 54.1% from the field. Despite Huerter's late arrival, that five-man lineup finished the season fifth in total minutes played for the Bulls. So that was a very successful group. Now looking at this five, the five of Giddey, Kobe, Kevin Huerter, Vucevic, and Pat Williams was even better. They scored 138.6 points per 100 possessions there. That's a solid clip. They were a plus 26.3. They shot 56.1% from the field and 60% from deep on more than 35 attempts. So those numbers all leading the team. That was a very successful tenure for that group of players there in those lineup combinations. And looking at the most tremendous impact of this, I think, assuming the Bulls, like I anticipate, and I've talked about this, bring back Josh Giddey on a deal, lineups this past season that included Huerter and Giddey together had the best offensive rating of any Bulls lot that appeared in at least 20 games together. Those groups were third in net rating and tops in effective field goal percentage and true shooting percentage. So they were able to find success in that tandem on the floor. That offers for a lot of excitement moving into this next season, and this is why I think Kevin Huerter is kind of overlooked. You don't hear much chatter about him, but he was widely and significantly successful in Billy Donovan's lineups here. He joined Billy Donovan's starting lineup for good on March 13th of this past season. He played in 15 of the Bulls' final 17 contests. Chicago was a whopping 12-3 in the 15 games Huerter played. The two contests he missed, they lost both games. So this guy was impactful. Just looking at some of the numbers here, the 7-year veteran averaged 14.7 points a game to go along with 3.6 boards and 3.9 assists, while shooting a much better 49.2% from the field, was back to his normal self from beyond the arc at 39.2% from three on nearly 7 attempts per game, which led the Bulls during that stretch. So he was a crucial element to the Bulls getting up the three-point attempts there that led the league in a lot of ways for the Bulls in that stretch. He led the Bulls in minutes per game over that span as well, so he was durable, and I expect him to be that moving into this next season as well. I think whether he pushes the Bulls one step closer to the playoffs, which is a goal for this team to get just beyond the play-in tournament like they've been in the last couple of years, he could also be a valuable trade chip, which could end up being even more valuable for this Bulls team if he skyrockets his value. Even more so, and say a contender wants to add a guy like Kevin Huerter, they could do so. So it's important, and I think this guy is an important and overlooked X factor for this Bulls team, and that's why I wanted to bring him up today. I think Kevin Huerter is going to be a very exciting, intriguing name to watch for this Bulls organization moving forward. So I wanted to kind of dip into him there. Switching gears to a guy I know I continue to talk about, but I want to stay up to date because he is on the Bulls' radar of some sorts here. Now, it's becoming increasingly unlikely, especially if the Bulls bring back Ayo, that sign and trade option for Kuminga goes to Chicago, but I don't know what's going to happen with Kuminga. I wanted to give you guys an update. Kuminga is declining the Warriors' offer terms up to this point. The restricted free agent is continuing to decline their 2-year, $45 million offer. Kuminga's decision, I read this morning, is in large part due to the Warriors' insistence on having a team option for the second season, plus their unwillingness to let him maintain the built-in no-trade clause to this point. So that's a big thing there. He does want to, have those terms in his contract dispute there, and that's not been able to come together for Golden State. So we'll keep an eye on that and how that develops. But having that no trade clause in there is a very significant piece to what Kuminga wants. Golden State's unwilling to do that, which kind of shows their unwillingness to fully commit to him. Now, 2 years, $45 million is a solid deal, but Kuminga, it is obvious that he wants to be locked up more long-term and wants the money to reflect that. I don't know if Golden State's willing to do that, so we'll see how things shake there. I've continued to see the Phoenix Suns in combinations and talks regarding him as well, so we'll keep an eye on all that stuff. I wanted to kind of close out today's show by talking about a list that ESPN posted this morning, and that ESPN had 10 sophomore players to watch this upcoming season, and they ranked them from 10 to 1. Coming in at number 4, with no surprise, Modest Buzelis. He came in behind Zachary Reisesher of Atlanta, Stephen Castle of the Spurs, and Reed Shepherd was ranked number 1 on this list of the Houston Rockets. Houston's going to be a force, so I'm not surprised that Reed Shepherd came in at number 1. I wanted to take a look at why Modest is ranked 4 on this list. He was once viewed as the number 1 prospect in the 2024 draft class for a while, so the Bulls getting him where they did in the 2024 draft was ultimately a steal in a lot of NBA experts' eyes, pointing to his significant potential as a tall, skilled perimeter scorer. I'm ultra excited about Modest this coming season. I know he has a lot to give to this organization. He definitely has put on some muscle mass to this point, and anything that I've seen of him out in the public eye. I know he was around Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears for a little bit here recently, and he just looks like he's put on some mass, and he looked really good in the summer league as well. So I'm optimistic about this player. He continues to add strength, and he's working on his shooting. This guy has a huge runway from both a development and role perspective. The Bulls are committing to play an up-tempo game, moving this play in favor of Modest. I think he's going to fit right in to this style of play in Billy Donovan's offense and what they like to do now as a philosophy for this team. I just think as well, moving into this next season, we should see more of the ball in Modest's hands operating in space, and for him getting a chance to expand his shot-creating skills, both for himself and his teammates. And that's why, assuming Ayo Dosunmu in that report is correct, comes back, I think Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, both in the final years of their deals, have a lot to prove, and this is same goes for Vooch. So it could be an exciting group, assuming all these guys come back. I expected at the start of the show that things were really going to be broken up in terms of this roster. It's not looking like that, and maybe Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley have that same vision where they want to gel the young talent and Noah Senge and Matas Buzelis with some of these veterans. Could make for an exciting bunch who could make some noise in the East. So we'll see, especially with the East expecting to have more of a down year in terms of what the other teams are going to provide. They have the injuries to, like I've talked about, Jason Tatum and Damian Lillard, two perennial Eastern Conference players. Obviously, Dame going over to Portland recently, so he's now out of the East. But Jason Tatum going to be out for the entire year. So this Eastern Conference, wide open. Why not just see what this group can do? And that's assuming, once again, that Giddey returns. I expect that. This will allow Matas as well to get more comfortable in the lineups that he's plugged into. At just 20 years old, I think there's plenty of intrigue for Matas heading into his sophomore season. So I agree with this fourth ranking by ESPN in terms of sophomore guys. I think the three guys in front of them are ultra-talented players as well. Obviously, Stephen Castle having a monster year in his rookie season. Reed Sheppard is going to be a very exciting guy for Houston as well. I think Houston's going to contend towards the top of the Western Conference with that move for KD now as well. So, we'll keep an eye on Matas as we move throughout the offseason here. I expect him to come out hot. I expect this Bulls team, if they keep everybody together, unlike a lot of what I've talked about up to this point, though, to be pretty competitive. And I think that win total you could see start to rise as we move towards next season, given this information that's coming across. So, as always, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm always interested to read thoughts on different Chicago Bulls fans' perspectives and all that. So, overall, I want to thank you guys for joining me on another episode of Bulls Latest, and we will see you tomorrow.